Dreams. I used to work very hard to remember dreams, and it got to the point where I could remember so much about dreams I could spend 2 hours in the morning writing about the dreams. Because you think when you wake up in the morning that you remember the whole dream, but that's not actually the case. If you keep writing, you'll keep realizing more of the dream. You'll get memories back, and the feeling of getting memories back, it's as if there's a fog. Imagine you're walking through the fog and you can see, 3 meters in all directions, so that's like what it feels like in your mind when you remember the dream in the morning. But it's so interesting what's in that 3 meter radius, metaphorically, that you're like, wow, that's the dream. But if you start really writing down every little thing, like if you start writing it in as much detail as possible, you'll feel it, and then the fog will lift and you'll realize, oh, there was fog there. You'll realize there's facets of the dream you didn't remember immediately, and it's like reclaiming memories. I've had this experience with memories outside of just dreaming. It's a really interesting feeling. It feels like a veil is lifting. There's a couple different sensations I would describe, or different processes I would describe the same way, of like a veil lifting or something coming off. This is one. I don't mean to conflate it with other experiences that also I would almost describe as a veil lifting. There's a couple different like iterations of that feeling that I've kind of had with or not iterations, but different. There's a few different experiences that kind of have a similar feel, but are different enough. Anyways, now though, if I start to remember my dreams, again, I'm being more intentional about my dreams, I'll immediately remember so much, but I only really write down, the things that are really interesting to me. I went to a seminar in a dream and learned, how to write, how to fashion stories, in a particular way, and it's this really interesting, radically different system. It's not the fool's journey. It's something else. And so I wrote this down, and I really like it. I really just vibe with the process. And basically the Arcturians taught it to me through this dream. They told me this after the fact. And, I was very impressed by this. Last night I had a dream where I saw this artist was teaching me. He was showing me all of these pictures very quickly of these different cartoon characters, and he was showing me the shapes of their faces, and was describing to me how having more of a, this person has a head that's basically a square, or this person has a trapezoidal head, or whatever. By having these more bold, obvious shapes, it's more expressive, and it communicates something about the character faster. And so like shape language, basically they're teaching me kind of a new perspective on shape language I hadn't thought of before in this dream. And that's something where, if you can build up some kind of memory of dreams, you can get benefits like this. I also figured out I kept having dreams where I'd be a kid, and then I'd be an adult, and I'd be a kid again, and this kept happening over and over and over again. And I figured out that when I'm a child in the dreams, it's when I'm on it's like a microcosm. It's like a description of me being on Arcturus. And then when I'm an adult in the dreams, because being in heaven is sort of like eternal childhood. You're not a child actually, but it's a good metaphor for, the heavenly life before. But then when being in, the mortal realm practically, I mean, that's not really exactly the right way to put it. Being on lower planets, just to put it that way. Things are more quote-unquote adult responsibility and stuff, so it's an interesting metaphor. And so now that I know that, I can interpret all these dreams, and it's a lot more powerful. And that's just something that, I didn't have the power to do before. So like that's an example of, you know, a really, I don't want to say tangible, but like it's a very particular gain. It's a particular gain that I can point at and say, hey, this worked. This is something that, you know, was enhanced in my consciousness. This is somewhere where I genuinely got, or where I got, you know, more or less clear direction on something. And you know, so that's kind of the power. It's all of these spiritual things. The benefits are obtuse. They're ethereal. If you can't hack it, if you can't play on that ethereal level, and it's like, oh, I don't get it, you know, woo woo. It's like, well, yeah, you don't get it, you know. It's ethereal. Not to say these things aren't real. I would say they're more real than the material reality. The ether reality is the original reality in my mind, and by changing the ether, we can change the you know, our existence here. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it really doesn't. And I would say the world's getting to the point now where it's taking less and less time to get from thought to manifestation. I think some of that is like Year of the Fire Horse, you know, Saturn and Neptune and Aries, meaning at like 0 degrees, all of that good stuff. So maybe there's a little window, but I don't think so. I think there's a permanent change coming as well. I'm very happy about that.